What does the federal government really want from the auto industry right now? And what does the current administration see when it looks at America's car market? Because when you zoom out, something doesn't add up. The average price paid for a new vehicle just hit an all-time high. Over $50,000. Not for luxury, not for specialty models. That's the average. And at first glance, that sounds like strength. It sounds like demand. It sounds like consumers are still willing to pay whatever it takes. But then, something strange happens. 5,000 car dealerships across the United States just sent a warning that cuts straight through that narrative. And what they're saying is unsettling. Inventory is piling up. Sales are slowing. Dealers are closing their doors. And the numbers coming out of dealership lots right now suggest something is quietly breaking inside the American economy. This isn't just about cars. When people stop buying vehicles, when families can't afford the payments, when dealerships begin collapsing by the thousands, that's not a car problem. That's an everything problem. And the signal these dealers just sent points to a shift that could reshape household finances, employment, and economic stability in ways most Americans aren't ready for. So what did these dealerships see that forced them to sound the alarm? And why are analysts saying this could mark the beginning of something we haven't seen in over a decade? The answer starts on lots that are far too full. Across the country, dealerships are surrounded by rows of unsold vehicles. At the end of the year, U.S. dealers were holding nearly 2.9 million new cars, enough inventory to last more than 76 days if not a single new vehicle arrived. On paper, that might not sound catastrophic, but that average hides a much darker reality. Some brands are drowning. Volkswagen dealers are staring at more than 140 days of inventory, nearly 5 months of cars sitting still. Jeep and Chrysler are in similar territory, both stretching well past 130 days. Ram trucks, once a staple of American driveways, are stacked with more than 115 days of supply. Meanwhile, other brands tell a completely different story. Toyota dealers average just over 30 days of inventory. Lexus, even tighter, sits closer to 28. Their lots move quickly. Cars arrive and disappear. No buildup, no backlog. This isn't balanced. It's a market tearing itself in two. For every brand that can't keep vehicles on the lot, there's another suffocating under the weight of too many. And when the industry average looks manageable, but individual brands are buried, it's not a slowdown. It's a structural failure. Every extra day a vehicle sits unsold carries a cost, and those costs don't show up on window stickers. They show up in interest payments. Dealers finance most of their inventory through what's called floor plan loans. The moment a car rolls off the transporter, the meter starts running. On a $50,000 vehicle, interest alone can rack up $8 or $9 per day. Add insurance, storage, and administrative costs, and that number jumps into the teens. Now multiply that by 100 cars, or 150, or 200. Some dealers are bleeding thousands of dollars every single day just to keep unsold vehicles parked in place. At first, there's a short grace period, but once that ends, banks demand curtailments. Partial repayments on vehicles that haven't sold, checks written for inventory that might never move. And as the days stack up, depreciation creeps in quietly. The longer a car sits, the deeper the discount required to sell it. That margin that once looked thin now disappears entirely. This is the silent pressure crushing dealerships from the inside. Rising interest rates since 2022 turned inventory from an asset into a liability. Floor plan expenses now eat up as much as 15% of operating costs during high inventory periods. For brands drowning in excess supply, the math stops working fast. Some dealers stop accepting trade-ins altogether. Others slash prices, not to compete, but to survive. Every unsold vehicle becomes a ticking clock. And if this pressure is intense for mainstream brands, it's even more visible at the top of the market. Luxury used to be insulated. Badge prestige once justified price gaps without question, but that logic is collapsing. Take two vehicles sitting across town from each other. One wears a premium badge and lists at over $63,000. The other, from a brand known for reliability, comes in closer to $58,000. On paper, the features look similar. Comfort, technology, performance, all roughly aligned. But the price difference now feels impossible to ignore. Buyers run the numbers and hesitate. Why pay more for a name when reliability, resale value, and monthly payments point elsewhere. This shift is happening everywhere. Shoppers who once chased prestige now chase value, and the lots reflect it. Empty rows at disciplined brands, overflow at others. The luxury market wasn't immune. It was simply the last to feel it. And behind that hesitation sits a problem far more personal. Millions of Americans are trapped in vehicles worth far less than what they owe. Loans stretch to 7 and even 8 years just to make monthly payments tolerable. Negative equity has become the norm, not the exception. People are at the peak. High prices, rising rates, limited supply. Now values are falling and balances barely move. Trading in isn't an option. Rolling thousands of dollars of negative equity into a new loan only digs the hole deeper. Selling privately leaves a shortfall that few can afford. So people stay put. They keep driving the same vehicle. They delay upgrades. They stretch maintenance. And when enough households do that, the entire system slows. Dealerships can't clear inventory because buyers can't move. Used cars pile up. Trade-ins vanish. The flow that keeps the market alive grinds down. And just as consumers hit that wall, the credit market tightens. Subprime lenders that once fueled sales are pulling back or disappearing entirely. Approval standards rise. Deals fall apart at the last minute. Even buyers with decent credit feel the squeeze. When more than 80% of new car purchases rely on financing, tighter credit doesn't just reduce sales, it chokes them. And that pressure doesn't stop with buyers. Automakers are reaching their own breaking point. For years, manufacturers absorbed rising costs, labor, logistics, tariffs, supply chain disruptions. They hoped demand would hold. Now vehicles are piling up and buyers are pulling back. So despite bloated inventory, price hikes are coming. Manufacturers warn dealers quietly at first. Costs can no longer be absorbed. Even disciplined producers are forced to move prices higher. 1 to 2% increases across lineups already averaging over $50,000. That's hundreds, sometimes thousands, added to loans that families already struggle to afford. Dealers now face an impossible position. Higher sticker prices push buyers away. Discounts eat margins. Holding inventory bleeds cash. So they adapt. And that adaptation is rewriting the used car market. Instead of sending older trade-ins to auction, dealers keep them. Vehicles that once would have been wholesaled are cleaned, detailed, and parked front and center. It's not about profit, it's about cash flow. Used cars that sell immediately help offset losses from unsold new inventory. But that choice cuts off supply for independent dealers who rely on auctions. The result is scarcity at the bottom of the market. Fewer affordable vehicles, higher prices for basic transportation, pressure on buyers with the least flexibility. What looks like a minor dealership decision multiplies across thousands of locations, and suddenly, entry-level cars vanish. This is how strain moves outward, because the auto industry doesn't operate in isolation. It supports nearly 10 million jobs and represents roughly 3% of total economic output. When sales slow, factories slow. When factories slow, towns feel it. Fewer shifts, less overtime. Uncertainty creeps in. Transporters run fewer routes. Advertisers spend less. Local governments lose sales tax revenue. Schools and services feel the gap. Economists are already modeling the drag. If trends hold, the slowdown could shave 0.5% off national output. In an economy this size, that's over $100 billion erased. This is why dealerships sounding the alarm matters. Cars are one of the first big purchases that households delay. When people stop buying vehicles, it's often because budgets are already stretched somewhere else. And now we arrive at the number that explains everything. The average new car price sits above $50,000. That figure isn't just a statistic, it's a wall. It blocks mobility. It delays life decisions. It traps families in older vehicles longer than planned. It forces trade downs, extensions, and compromises. For years, higher earners carried demand. But now even those buyers hesitate. Lines thin. Trade downs increase. The old assumptions stop working. A family sits at the table running the numbers again. A repair versus a replacement. Another year versus another loan. Stretching budgets that already feel tight. What's happening on dealership lots today is a warning signal, not about cars, about affordability, about credit, about how close the system is to its limits. Because when transportation becomes a financial burden, it touches everything. Jobs, time, opportunity. And when something breaks on the lot, it rarely stays there. What's cracking in the car market right now may already be reshaping the economy you live in. whether you're shopping for a vehicle or not. And the question isn't if this spreads, it's how prepared people are when it does.